Hello everybody, welcome to Nature's Pupil. Thank you for tuning in again. I'm really thankful for you guys that have been connecting, subscribing. It really means a lot to me. Anyways, getting right into the video, I would like to explain today what does actually alcohol do to our brains. For those of you guys who don't know, I have a series of the effects of neuroexcitatory substances, psychoactive basically, inside the brain, and I explain that in detail what happens. There's one of my videos that explain what happens if you combine four substances called nicotine, ethanol, alcohol, caffeine, and weed, pot, basically THC. Go watch that video, really interesting stuff. Now today I'm going to explain what actually happens inside our brains when we are under the influence of alcohol. Anyways, getting right into it. For starters, I'd like to mention that alcohol is by far, this is not my perspective, this is further studies that have been done consistently. Remember, alcohol has been legalized back in the 1950s, so it's a really well-known drug, and it's available at the market, slightly regulated in certain regions and unregulated in other parts of the world. But to tell you simply is that we really understand and know what are the effects of alcohol consumption, be it in a binge drinking, be it on one sitting drinking, be it on the long run drinking. So getting right into it, I want to explain that alcohol is by far, as I mentioned prior, that is by far the most destructive psychoactive drug available in the market out there. Nothing comes closer. Why? Because the molecular structure of ethanol, which is the widely consumed type of alcohol, is very strange and very particular and very unique in feature, has in the fact that it actually permeates all single cells inside our bodies. So we have all these type of cells that have all these type of features, characteristics, and functions inside our bodies. Alcohol, it's a non-discriminative drug or substance. It permeates all single cell membranes. Our cell membranes are made of lipids, which are basically fats, and fats are most times hydrophobic and really selective when it comes to affinity to other substances out there in the universe, or in the world, or rather say. So they don't really mix up with many elements or components or I would rather say substances. Alcohol is the drug that does not select anything. It's non-discriminatory. It has a broad spectrum. It permeates. Now, explaining deeply what actually alcohol does to our brains is the alcohol is metabolized in the liver. So in the liver, we have all these particular enzymes that are responsible to break down alcohol. And the byproduct of that is a substance called acetaldehyde. So acetaldehyde actually is very oxidating or sort of toxic to liver cells. So it actually has an effect on the enzymes that do the work, do the ribosomes, and take the carrier messages from the DNA in the center of the cell nucleus, and sort of that stresses the cell, and the cell doesn't function well, and what ends up happening is the cells actually end up dying out in the liver. And in the brain, what actually happens is that alcohol has a really interesting effect on the brain cells. So you have all these certain receptors in two types of specific and highly categorized and highly monitored and gauged cells inside certain regions of the brain. And most of those cells, some are excitatory, which means they excite, they're too much, they're always consuming power and always lighting up, and in activity, basically they're active, they're very active. And then other cells are inhibitory, which means they're sort of to calm down and to gauge things, to keep things in in check, basically. So what happens is alcohol works in a glutamate system. So the glutamate system, glutamate, it's one of the among the 100 plus neurotransmitters that are out there in our brains. The neurotransmitters are not really well understood. However, they sort of have the basic function of regulating the amount of impulse that travels across a neuron, making it fire more, less, to transmit a message, be it a memory, be it, a live event, whatever. Anyways, getting right on the track, I was saying that it affects the glutamate system. So this glutamate, being a neurotransmitter, it affects the excitatory neurons. So glutamate, when it goes to that part of the receptors of the neuron, it makes it fire more. So it's an excitatory neurotransmitter. It makes the neuron fire. Funny stuff, ain't it? And GABA, which is gamma aminobutyric acid, what it does is it is an inhibitory. It means it is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, which means it actually suppresses the activity of neurons, so it makes them fire less. Firing less means transmitting the message or the signaling or the impulse at a very low pace, slowly, right? So what actually alcohol does? It goes in there, in the glutamate system, excitatory, it locks in there, it makes the messaging slower. So it slows the pace of those neurons that fire quite often, like constantly. And in the reverse, it also goes in the GABA system, the GABA neurotransmitters, which makes the neurons fire slow. So it's like a double take. It has a double effect. It's like killing two birds with a single stone. So it suppresses excitatory aspects of our brain cells, and it enhances the inhibitory. So whatever was supposed to be fast, let's say we look at everything around us, we experience life, that gets slower. And whatever was to be slower, such as that thought, that memory that you were trying to retrieve, that thing that you're trying to search in your memory, it's not coming up, it becomes even slower. So it has a double effect of slowing the slow and slowing the fast, right? So what does that have? What effect that has in our brain cells in overall? What is the effect of alcohol, all these neurotransmitters, this GABA and glutamate in brain regions? So for the most profound effect that alcohol has in specific brain regions, it's that it suppresses all of them, basically all brain regions. In the brain, you have these regions you have the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe is a part of the brain involved with memories and emotions and sort of the sensory part of your existence. So there's certain senses that don't really have to do with the touch, smell, and all that. It has to do actually with the pitch. So let's say you hear a sound, your brain has a region that locates where that sound came from. What type of that sound, what is the pitch, what's the frequency. That helps you identify sometimes who is the person talking, right? So because alcohol is so profound and suppresses all functions across the board, you talk about the parietal part of the brain that has these things I mentioned prior. You talk about the occipital lobe that has to do with your vision cortex. It suppresses your vision becomes blurry, it becomes shaky, it becomes unstable, it becomes wobbly, and you can't really digest these informations. And because the brain efforts are slowed down, you don't feel cold, you don't feel emotional, so the brain activates all these other regions that have to do with the primordial or sort of the limbic system or your lizard part of the brain, that have nothing to do with actually consciousness or to do with emotions or judgment and reasoning, because those parts are really sensitive to firing to these glutamate and GABA systems. Actually, your brain activates ancient pathway that has to do with you surviving under extreme situations wherein your conscious mind is not really functional. And what happens is that you start doing stupid things. You talk to people you don't know. You're very courageous. So the part of your brain that is responsible for you to make good judgments, to make good evaluations, and to make a good understanding of the world, that gets highly suppressed by alcohol, and your brain is now on survival mode. That's when things start to go down south. Now I want to explain about alcohol toxicity. So alcohol is well managed by our brains. The brain actually has enzymes inside itself to metabolize alcohol and actually turn it into like a sugar molecule, or not basically fuel. So it's not like that much dangerous. So I want to explain you on what stage can you actually sort of get toxicity or die from alcohol consumption. So this is how it works. Alcohol is metabolized by mainly 3 organs. It's metabolized across the board by your cells, but your liver takes 90% of the job, and the pancreas, whenever things go overboard, comes out at rescue and comes to sort of help the liver and it has a salvage response to break down alcohol and make sure the brain is safe and fine. The brain has safety pathways to eliminate alcohol. It activates certain parts of our brainstem that have to do with vomiting to excrete the substance, and also has all these different parts that are sort of safeguard to make sure you don't intoxicate. So can you be intoxicated from alcohol? So here's the thing. Ranging from something called BAC, which means blood alcohol concentrations. So we're talking about how many molecules of ethanol are present in 100 milligrams of the serum of blood at a given moment. Say for instance, you consume say a glass or a shot of alcohol, depending on the concentration. The lower the concentration, the less the risk. The higher the concentration, the higher the risk. So if you have 0.08, which is internationally recognized as a level of intoxication, you actually cannot drive because your judgmental and your mental state is severely impaired, that you cannot really do much. However, as the blood alcohol concentration increases, one thing that is interesting about the brain is that the brain, because it has a memory of alcohol from ancient times, from medieval eras, the brain actually has pathways to safeguard that we don't actually intoxicate ourselves with the consumption of alcohol. The only dangers about really alcohol is that you might be injured, you might get hurt, but it does not really. It's really high. It's really the probability of overdosing is really low. So you go from 0.08 BAC, sorry. You go to 0.0. I'll just jump to 0.03. So 0.03 is actually a level wherein you're 0.3. Sorry, that's 0.3. It's intoxication. That means you are in a state of which you blacked out. The responses of your body are not really quite effective. And then lastly, you have 0.45 BAC, blood alcohol concentration, which means you are your brain is so much severely intoxicated, it cannot send messages for breathing, so you might die of your lungs failing, and your respiratory centers don't respond well to the levels of oxygens that is failing to be measured by the brain. So that's it with a nutshell, guys. How alcohol affects our brain. For me, I would advise you to not drink alcohol. It's a very destructive substance because it's very oxidizing to cells. Although our body's ability to regenerate is really robust, but just to stay on the safe side, just try occasionally. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink. Try it occasionally, but don't go overboard. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm going to bring really good content in my room with the lighting, with everything set up. Stay tuned with Nature's People. A lot of videos are coming in. Thank you for watching. Bye.